You have $650 million, and the world is completely blind to it. Not your neighbors, not your oldest friends, not even the barista who has poured your black coffee every morning for 6 years without asking how you are. You aren't hiding in a bunker. You are simply choosing to be invisible on purpose. While everyone else is exhausting themselves chasing the aesthetic of wealth, you quietly became the real thing. And the most jarring part? The number didn't arrive with fireworks or a ticker tape parade. It arrived in a mundane email with the subject line, Q3 Portfolio Summary. No exclamation points, no champagne cork popping. Just you, standing in the plumbing aisle of a hardware store, trying to decide between 2 different sizes of PVC fittings. This is what $650 million actually looks like. It began with a vending machine in a hospital break room. Not an epiphany, not a grand business plan, just a Tuesday afternoon sandwiched between the end of your shift and the walk to the parking garage. You noticed the water dispenser was empty and the snack machine next to it was jammed. Instead of rolling your eyes, you paused. You looked at the metal box differently. You wondered, who actually owns this? You went home and spent 40 minutes digging, 40 minutes longer than most people would ever bother. What you found was a name, a small operator running maybe a dozen machines across 3 buildings, netting somewhere between $40 and $120 a month per unit after costs. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't even interesting. Just a static number on a screen while your apartment sat silent around you. But you did the math, and the math changed something in your brain. Because if one machine in a decent spot clears $80 a month net, 5 machines make $400. 10 make $800. 25 machines, run tight in the right locations, generate between $1,200 and $3,000 a month whether you lift a finger or not. The money wasn't the hook yet. What hooked you was the architecture. The fact that the machine didn't need you. It just sat in a hallway solving a minor inconvenience for strangers, paying you every single time it worked. You spent $900 on your first unit. Used, slightly dented on the left side. You placed it in the lobby of a mid-sized dental office in exchange for a revenue share and a handshake. The first month, it grossed $280. After product costs, the location fee, and the gas to drive out twice to restock, you netted $190. $190. Your coworker made more than that in a single overtime shift last weekend. Your cousin's signing bonus could cover that machine's earnings for the next 4 years. Nobody congratulated you. Nobody knew. You sat with that number on a Thursday night and felt something that wasn't quite pride and wasn't quite disappointment. It was quieter than both. But you didn't stop, because you weren't looking at the $190. You were looking at what the $190 proved. It proved the system worked. So you bought a second machine. Then a third. The architecture of unsexy businesses. You started observing commercial laundromats the same way you had watched that vending machine. Not as a customer, but as someone dissecting the ownership layer beneath the surface. You discovered that a small coin-operated laundry, the kind with 15 machines in a strip mall off a state highway, could generate anywhere from $60,000 to over $200,000 annually. You learned that the ones that failed usually died due to operational negligence, not market collapse. People always need to wash their clothes. That necessity doesn't vanish during a recession. It doesn't disappear when the stock market tanks 18% in a quarter. It just keeps churning, load after load, quarter after quarter. You bought your first laundromat for $47,000. It was in a working-class neighborhood in Ohio. The machines were aging but functional. The lease had 6 years remaining. The previous owner, a retired postal worker named Dale, ran the whole operation with a flip phone and a spiral notebook. The books were chaotic, but beneath the mess, the cash flow was undeniable. The first year, it netted $38,000. You didn't pop a bottle. You used the profit as a down payment on the next one. This is the part nobody sees. Not the scaling, not the portfolio diversity, not the compound effect of 8 years of silent decisions. Just a person doing arithmetic at a kitchen table at midnight. Just a Tuesday observation that became a Wednesday question, which became a Thursday purchase, which turned into something nobody has a proper word for yet. The number didn't matter. The architecture did. Your accountant's name is Karen. She has been managing books for small business owners for 19 years. She has seen sloppy LLCs, chaotic sole proprietorships, and restaurant owners who kept receipts in shoeboxes. She is not easily impressed. She sat across from you at a folding table in the back office of your third laundromat. You handed her a folder. Inside was a summary of everything you currently owned. She read it slowly. Silence stretched out for a long time. Finally, she looked up and said, "This is the most deliberately uninteresting portfolio I have ever seen." She meant it as a mild critique. The logic of resilience and recession-proofing. You took it as the highest compliment you'd ever received, because that was exactly what you were building. Not a brand, not a vision statement, not a company with a logo, a mission deck, and a pitch. Just a quiet collection of assets that solve basic, unglamorous human problems and generate cash every single month, whether you are watching them or not. Here is what the folder contained: 4 coin laundromats across 2 Midwestern states. Combined, they pulled in roughly $290,000 a year in gross revenue. After expenses, utilities, minor repairs, part-time attendance, the net hovered around $110,000. Not spectacular. Not the kind of number that gets you invited onto a podcast. But it arrived every month like clockwork because, essentially, it was rent. People will always need to wash their clothes. That need does not negotiate with economic downturns. 2 municipal parking lots you acquired through county tax auctions. The kind held on Tuesday mornings in government buildings where almost nobody else bothers to show up. You paid $31,000 for the first. The second cost $44,500. Together, they generated just over $58,000 a year in net income after maintenance and insurance. You didn't manage them day to day. You hired a part-time operator. You saw a deposit hit your account every month, and that was the extent of your involvement. 3 highway billboards on state routes in Tennessee and Kentucky. You didn't own the advertising space. You owned the dirt beneath them. Advertising companies leased that land from you on long-term contracts, ranging from 5 to 15 years, with built-in annual rent increases. Currently, each paid between $800 and $1,400 a month in ground rent. Some months, you forgot you owned them entirely. And then there was the commercial cleaning company. You bought it 2 years ago from a retiring owner in his late 60s named Frank, who had built it over 31 years into something that ran mostly on its own momentum. 12 contracted clients, office buildings, a medical clinic, 2 school districts. Annual revenue just over $1.1 million. Net margins were thin but reliable. The kind of business that loses clients slowly and replaces them slowly, never making headlines and never will. Karen flipped through the folder again. She asked if you planned to pivot into anything more growth-oriented, a tech play, maybe multifamily real estate, something with explosive upside. You told her no. She nodded, as if she expected that answer but didn't fully grasp it. What she couldn't see, what almost nobody sees, is the logic underneath the boredom. Every asset in that folder shared one trait. It served a need that does not go away. Not in a downturn. Not when interest rates spike. Not when some new platform disrupts how people shop, communicate, or work. People park their cars. People wash their clothes. Buildings get dirty every single day, and someone has to clean them. Drivers on a highway see whatever is on that billboard whether they want to or not. There is no app for any of this. There is no disruption coming. There is no competitor who is going to out-innovate a parking lot. And that is the point. The flashy entrepreneurs raising venture rounds, chasing multiple expansions, posting about their portfolios on LinkedIn, they are operating in markets where being interesting is the price of admission. Where competition is constant, attention is mandatory, and one bad quarter can unravel 3 years of work. You are not in those markets. You are deliberately, carefully, almost aggressively absent from those markets. You are in the Tuesday morning markets. The ones nobody is watching. The ones that just keep running, quiet and steady, long after the interesting thing down the street has closed its doors. Karen closed the folder. She said she'd have the quarterly summary ready by Thursday. You thanked her and drove home in your 2019 Honda Pilot with 91,000 miles on it and a crack in the rear bumper you've been meaning to fix for 8 months. You didn't fix it. The social cost of visibility. There was a guy at the networking event. You've seen his type before. He wore a plain white t-shirt that cost $340, which you knew because you'd looked up the brand once after someone mentioned it. He drove a matte gray Range Rover with a custom wrap. He talked about his portfolio the way some people talk about their personality, loudly, directed at whoever might be listening. He was performing wealth carefully, deliberately, at considerable expense. You had driven there in your 2019 Honda Pilot with 91,000 miles and that unrepaired bumper crack. You were wearing a fleece from a sporting goods store that had been on clearance. Your watch told time and did nothing else. When he asked what you did, you told him you owned a few small businesses. Laundromats, mostly. Some other stuff. You watched his face do the calculation in real time. The car, the fleece, the laundromats. He smiled politely and turned his body slightly toward someone else. In his head, you had already been sorted, mid-level, comfortable, maybe not worth the full pitch. Good. That moment, that small, quiet dismissal, was worth more to you than anything else that would happen all night. Stealth wealth as a defense strategy. Because the moment someone underestimates you, they stop watching you. And the moment they stop watching you, you can do whatever you want. This is what people misunderstand about stealth wealth. They think it's about modesty. They think it's a philosophical stance, the humble rich person at peace with their abundance, unbothered by status. Maybe for some, it is. But for you, it's a strategy. The ordinary life is armor, and you wear it every day on purpose. The Honda isn't a statement, it's a tool. It starts reliably every morning, handles highway miles without complaint, and draws exactly zero attention in any parking lot in America. Currently, the average new car transaction sits close to $48,000. The average monthly payment on a new vehicle is around $735. You paid cash for the Pilot 4 years ago and have spent nothing on it except gas and oil changes. Every dollar that isn't going toward a car payment is going somewhere that compounds. That's the math. It's not complicated. It's just unpopular. Your house is similar. A 3-bedroom colonial in a quiet suburb. Bought 11 years ago. The mortgage has been paid off for 2 years. The neighbors think you're a small business owner who does okay. They aren't wrong. They're just missing several zeros. You don't correct them. What you've learned, slowly and then all at once, is that visibility is expensive in ways that have nothing to do with money. The moment people know what you have, they begin relating to what you have instead of to you. Conversations shift. Requests appear. A cousin you haven't spoken to in 4 years finds a reason to call. Someone at church mentions they have a business idea they've been working on. Your brother-in-law starts talking about a real estate deal that just needs a little seed capital to get off the ground. You've seen it happen to others. You've watched wealth change the temperature of a room the moment it becomes visible. It's not malicious. Most of it isn't even conscious. It's just what money does to the space around it when people can see it. So, you keep the space clean. The fleece, the Pilot, the laundromats, the carefully maintained appearance of someone who is doing fine but not exceptionally. It costs you almost nothing to maintain, and it returns something that money genuinely cannot purchase: the ability to move through your own life without being perceived as a target. At the networking event, the guy in the $340 t-shirt was now deep in conversation with someone who had a startup. He was animated, leaning in, doing what people do when they think a room is watching. You got a glass of water, talked to 2 people you actually wanted to speak with, and left by 8:15. On the way home, you passed a coin-operated car wash and noticed it was busy for a Tuesday night. You made a mental note to look into who owned the property. The Pilot needed nothing. You drove it home anyway. The burden of secret abundance. Your best friend since college is named Marcus. He played pickup basketball with you every Sunday for 6 years. He was at your mother's funeral. He is the kind of person who calls on a random Wednesday just to check in. No agenda, no ask, just calling. You don't have many friendships that feel like that, and you know it. 3 months ago, Marcus called on a Wednesday. But this time, there was something underneath the conversation. He'd been building a food truck business for 2 years. Good food, real following, the kind of thing that gets written up in a local paper and has a line at lunch. He wanted to expand. Lease a brick-and-mortar location he'd been eyeing on a corner near downtown. The numbers made sense. The opportunity was real. He needed $85,000. You could have sent that money before the call ended. You could have sent it from your phone while sitting in your car in the parking lot of a laundromat without feeling it. Not even slightly. The number $85,000, relative to your current balance sheet, is the equivalent of about 11 days of passive cash flow across your portfolio. It is not a sacrifice. It is not even a decision, financially speaking. But you didn't send it. You sat with the phone against your ear, listening, and felt the full weight of what it means to know exactly what you could do and choose not to do it. That particular feeling doesn't have a clean name. It isn't guilt, exactly. It isn't selfishness. It's something more complicated. The specific loneliness of understanding a situation more clearly than the person you love who is living it. Because here is what you have learned, slowly and at some cost. Money handed to someone who isn't structurally ready for it doesn't solve the problem. It accelerates whatever is already there. If the operations are loose, the money makes them looser. If the owner doesn't yet understand cash flow, the difference between revenue and margin, the way a lease can quietly strangle a business that looks healthy from the outside, then capital just buys them a faster, more expensive version of the same lesson they were going to learn anyway. And then the money is gone. And so often, the friendship is gone too. You've seen it. Not with Marcus, but you've seen it. So instead of sending the money, you asked Marcus if you could come by Saturday morning. You sat at his kitchen table with a notepad and went through his numbers with him for 3 hours. You found 2 line items in his operating costs that were quietly bleeding him dry. You asked questions about the lease terms on the new space, the rent escalation clauses, the personal guarantee, what happens in month 18 if foot traffic is 30% below projection. He didn't know the answers to some of those questions. Not because he wasn't smart, but because nobody had ever asked them with him before. You went back the following Saturday, and the one after that. By the 4th Saturday, Marcus had renegotiated 2 vendor contracts, identified a local small business administration loan program he qualified for, and restructured his expansion timeline in a way that didn't require outside capital at all. He found $60,000 through the SBA program and a small business grant through the city. He signed the lease 6 weeks later. He called you the night he got the keys. He was crying a little, the way people do when something they worked for actually arrives. He said he couldn't have done it without you. You didn't tell him what you could have written a check for. You will probably never tell him. That's not modesty. It's just an understanding of what the story needed to be. His story, built by his decisions, owned by him in a way that no check from you could have made possible. But there are rooms inside your life that nobody gets to walk into. That's the part that doesn't get easier. Not the secrecy itself, you've made peace with that. It's the specific weight of watching someone you love struggle through something you could remove in 60 seconds, and knowing that removing it would be the wrong thing. Knowing it fully, sitting with it across a kitchen table for 4 Saturdays in a row. The armor works. Ordinary life protects you. The portfolio runs quiet, the account grows, nobody watches, nobody asks. But nobody sees it either. And some nights, that's a different kind of cost entirely. The $650 million milestone in a plumbing aisle. The email arrives on a Thursday at 7:12 a.m. You are standing in the plumbing aisle of a Home Depot. Not because you needed to be there personally, you have people for most of this now, but because one of the laundromat locations has a utility sink with a slow drain, and the property manager sent you a text with a photo. You were already out, so you stopped. You are holding a bottle of drain cleaner in one hand and your phone in the other, trying to remember if the pipe under that sink is PVC or galvanized, because it matters which product you use. That's when the notification comes in. The subject line is Q2 Portfolio Summary. Final. It's from your accountant, Karen. She sends these every quarter. They are thorough and completely unexciting. Formatted in the same 12-point Times New Roman she has used for 19 years. You usually read them at your kitchen table on a weekend morning with coffee. You almost put the phone back in your pocket, but something in the number at the top of the preview stops you. You set the drain cleaner down on the shelf. You open the email. You read the summary line twice, slowly. The way you read something when you aren't sure you're reading it correctly. Your total verified net worth, including all real property, business equity, liquid holdings, and portfolio assets, has crossed $650 million. You stand there in the plumbing aisle for a moment, Fluorescent lights buzzing above you. A forklift somewhere in the back of the store is making a slow beeping sound as it reverses. A man in a gray hoodie 2 feet away is comparing prices on copper fittings. Nobody is looking at you. Nobody knows. The store doesn't know. The forklift doesn't know. The number exists in an email on a phone in a hand attached to a person who is holding a bottle of drain cleaner and trying to remember what kind of pipe is under a utility sink in a coin laundromat in Ohio. This is the moment. Not a dinner reservation, not a bottle of champagne, not a phone call from someone telling you that you've made it. Just fluorescent light, the smell of a hardware store, and a number on a screen that has been accumulating quietly through 11 years of Tuesday decisions, Wednesday transfers, and Saturdays at kitchen tables nobody photographed. You thought it would feel different. You thought there would be something, a shift in the air, a physical sensation, the world rearranging itself slightly to acknowledge what just happened. You had imagined this moment the way everyone imagines a milestone, with some kind of ceremony attached to it. A before and after that you could feel the seam between. There is no seam. There is just the plumbing aisle, the forklift, Karen's email, and the quiet, steady hum of a life that has not changed because a number changed. You reply to Karen with 3 words, "Thanks. Looks right." Then you pick the drain cleaner back up, take a photo of the label to send to the property manager, and walk to the checkout. You pay $8.47. You do not use a rewards card because you can never remember if you have one. In the car, you sit for a minute before starting the engine. 11 years ago, you netted $190 from a used vending machine in the lobby of a dental office and sat with that number on a Thursday night, not knowing what to call what you were feeling. It wasn't pride, and it wasn't disappointment, and it wasn't enough to tell anyone about. This is the same feeling. Exactly the same, just with more zeros behind it. That's not nothing. It might actually be everything, because it means the feeling was never about the number. It was about the architecture, the proof of concept, the quiet satisfaction of a system running the way you built it to run, without drama, without applause, without anyone in the plumbing aisle of a Home Depot having any idea. You start the engine. The laundromat drain isn't going to fix itself. You drive back the same way you came. Same road, same pilot, same crack in the bumper you haven't fixed. Nothing about the outside of your life has changed in the last 40 minutes. And nothing will change tomorrow either. The laundromat will open at 6. Karen will send a follow-up question about Q3 projections. Marcus's food truck will have a line at lunch. What's different is quieter than that. Somewhere in this ordinary week, you're going to watch someone spend money to look like they have it. And you're going to notice something you couldn't have named 11 years ago, that the performance of wealth and the architecture of it are rarely found in the same person at the same time. The knowing doesn't make Tuesday easier, but it does make you wonder what you are actually building, and for whom.